today we're talking about motor vehicle accidents and compulsory third-party insurance claims. So if you've had a car accident recently and you think you might be entitled to some compensation, we're going to answer your questions throughout this episode. And joining me to help me with that is Sarah Vinal and Suzanne Pinion. Thanks for your time.
Hi, Ben.
Now, you're both personal injury lawyers with Anderson Solicitors, so you know this topic very well. Sarah, I'm going to start with you with a broad question. When should people consider making a claim for compensation?
So if you've been involved in a motor vehicle accident and you've suffered injuries, it doesn't just have to be a car versus car accident, rear end collision. It can also include if you're crossing the road and you get hit by a car, if there's a bus involved, a truck, all those sorts of things are covered.
So unpleasant situations that no one wants to find themselves in, but unfortunately people do all of the time. And it can be daunting, that first process, can't it? Going through and working out exactly how they go and make a claim for compensation. Where should people start?
Well, Ben, yes, it can be, and most people will be in shock after an accident. I personally was involved in a rear-end collision involving, I was in a taxi, and the taxi driver following the accident was quite upset, and I was so busy making sure that he was okay that I didn't even get the basic details that you need to get after an accident. And most importantly, that's the registration number of the vehicle involved in the accident. The registration number will allow you to identify the relevant compulsory third-party insurer for that at-fault vehicle. And you need to, if you're injured and you're taken to hospital, for instance, and you don't have an opportunity to get the registration number, you'll need to obtain a copy of the police report that would have been made at the time of the accident and get that information that way. You need to fill out a claim form. It's a CTP claim form that you can get from the CTP regulator, or you can go online and input the registration details, find out who the insurer is, download the form. It requires details of the accident and also requires you to have a certificate completed by your GP. So that's the other important thing that you must do after an accident, is attend on your GP and get assessed for your injuries and make sure all of your injuries are recorded so you can get the treatment that you need for those injuries. You also need to keep a record of out-of-pocket expenses, any witnesses to the accident. Sometimes there's a dispute over who's liable for the accident, so it's really important that you obtain all of those details. There is a 6-month, it's not really a time limit, that the insurance company likes you to lodge the claim form within 6 months, but there is a strict 3-year time limit for personal injury claims in South Australia. So if the matter has not resolved prior to the anniversary of the 3 years from the accident, you'll need to have issued proceedings in court to protect your entitlements.
And in terms of entitlements, what kind of things can people claim for?
So there's pain and suffering and loss of enjoyment of life, past and future loss with respect to your ability to work, and that includes superannuation losses as well, past and future care, which can include voluntary or gratuitous care provided by your family, past and future treatment, medication, travel, those sorts of things.
So it's a complex process. It is one that you can try and attempt yourself, but obviously your advice, Sarah, is that people should engage a lawyer and get professional advice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a complex system, and there's so many different areas that can impact a person. So there might be a problem with the circumstances of the accident. It might not be clear who's at fault. A lawyer can help identify any issues in that regard and help you with the investigations. Also, the lawyer will ensure that all your injuries are properly assessed and can help out when there's some complications. You might have had a previous injury to the same body part. An injury may take a little while to show up. So a lawyer is going to be able to get the necessary medical reports and just make sure that your claim is fully investigated and its impact on you is known.
So people watching this might be thinking, well, of course I would like a lawyer, but they're very expensive and I can't afford that. What do you say to those people?
Well, Ben, we offer a 30-minute first free, no obligation interview. So that's an opportunity for everyone who's been in an accident to get some free advice about what their entitlements might be and to discuss the likely costs to be incurred and make an informed decision about whether they want a lawyer involved. If it's not financially viable to have a lawyer involved, we'll be honest about that. In most cases, it is, because we also offer a deferred payment arrangement. So our fees don't actually get paid until the conclusion of your claim. Some of your fees will be met by the insurance company, and most of the out-of-pocket expenses should be met by the insurance company along the way. So people really don't have anything to lose by going to see a lawyer for that first free interview. We're not going to hound you if you decide, that you don't want a lawyer involved at that stage. You might decide to engage a lawyer a bit later down the track when your injuries are stable and offers are being made. But it is important, I think, to obtain initial advice early so that you understand the complexity of your particular circumstances, and the lawyer can explain whether there's any issues over who was at fault or complexity around your claim for damages. If there's a really complex claim for economic loss, for instance, someone had their own business, can't work in their business anymore, a lot of those things take a while to investigate. So the earlier you do it, the better. The other thing you need to remember is that is the time limit. If you come really late to see a lawyer just before the 3-year time limit is about to run out, it can be very difficult to fully advise a client about the matter before there's a need to issue proceedings.
And lawyers will also help with compensation offers. So the insurance company will come to the person with that first offer, and quite often that can be a lowball offer, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important to remember that just because the insurance company makes an offer, you're not obliged to accept it. And I would recommend anybody that doesn't already have a lawyer involved to contact a lawyer. Once you settle your claim, that's it. So if it turns out a year down the track that you're still having problems and that you can't, once it's settled, you can't go back on the settlement. So before accepting any offer, you really need to make sure that all your injuries have been assessed and that the impact of the accident on you for the future has also been properly assessed. And a lawyer is going to be able to help you with that. They'll make sure that you've seen the correct doctors and they'll ask the doctors those questions about your, how you're going to be impacted in the future, whether you've got a need for cleaning or gardening assistance, whether your earning potential in the future is going to be impacted, that sort of thing. Normally, there's a few offers that go back and forth, so it's quite rare for the first offer to be acceptable.
But eventually you'll get there. It's important to make sure that you just stick to that process.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot to think about there for someone who may have been in a car accident, and right from that first moment that they've had the crash through until accepting the offer. So for those people who might be in that situation, Suzanne, what do you say to them? What are the key takeaways from this episode?
So the key takeaways are to make sure you obtain all of the information at the time of the accident, the registration, etc. Lodge your claim form, but importantly, go and see a lawyer early. It's you've got nothing to lose, and you'll be able to inform yourself about what your entitlements are, what the process involves, and then make a decision from there. And then you won't be having to worry about time limits or having to make decisions in a hurry, or just educate yourself.
Okay, Suzanne Pinion and Sarah Vinal, thanks very much for all of your insights.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks.
Well, that wraps up this episode of Law Talk. If you want any information about anything we've discussed in this episode, or to book a free 30-minute consultation with a personal injury lawyer, you can contact Anderson Solicitors at andersons.com.au. The information, opinions, and advice in this podcast are for general information only and not intended to be legal advice. Each claim for compensation is dependent on the facts of the specific claim, and you should seek advice about your specific circumstances.